The message came on a Tuesday. Admiral Samantha Wells was drinking her morning coffee when the alert sounded. She had been expecting it for weeks. The tension between Earth and the Galactic Council had been growing worse each day. Now it seemed the waiting was over. "We have an incoming transmission from the Council flagship, Admiral," said Lieutenant Gary Patterson. His voice was steady, but Samantha could see the worry in his eyes. "Put it through to the main screen," she ordered, setting down her coffee mug. The screen at the front of Earth Defense Command's main control room flickered to life. The face that appeared wasn't human. It belonged to Ambassador Zex, the official voice of the Galactic Council. His purple skin gleamed under the lights of his ship. The 4 eyes on his face blinked at different times as he stared at Samantha. "Admiral Wells," he said. His voice sounded almost like a human's, but with a strange echo. "I speak today with the full authority of the Galactic Council." Around the control room, 50 human officers watched in silence. Everyone knew what was coming. "For too long, your species has been a problem," continued Ambassador Zex. "You build weapons too quickly. You spread to new planets without permission. You refuse to follow Council rules. The danger you present can no longer be ignored." Samantha said nothing. She stood tall, her gray uniform perfectly pressed, her short brown hair tucked behind her ears. "The Council has voted," said Ambassador Zex. By a count of 27-3, with 2 members not voting, the Galactic Council formally declares war on the planet Earth and all human colonies. A few gasps broke the silence of the control room. Someone dropped a tablet with a clatter, but Samantha's face showed nothing. "You have 24 Earth hours to surrender and begin disarming," the ambassador continued. "If you do not, the combined fleets of the Council races will enter your solar system and take control by force." Samantha finally spoke. "Is that all, Ambassador?" The alien seemed surprised by her calm response. "You understand what this means, Admiral? The Council controls over 30,000 warships. Your entire fleet numbers less than 1,000. "I understand numbers quite well," said Samantha. "Is there anything else you wish to say?" "Only that the Council regrets this action has become necessary. We had hopes for humanity once." Samantha nodded once. "Message received, Ambassador. Earth Defense Command out." She made a cutting motion with her hand and Lieutenant Patterson ended the transmission. The screen went dark. For 3 seconds, nobody in the control room spoke. Then everyone began talking at once. "Admiral, we need to alert the President. The colony on Mars is completely exposed. If we move the fleet to defend Earth, the outer colonies will—" Samantha raised her hand, and the room fell silent again. "Get me the President," she said to Patterson, "and activate the secure line to all fleet commanders. Priority Alpha." 5 minutes later, Samantha stood before a different screen. This one showed the face of President Howard Davis. Behind him were the 12 members of Earth Security Council. "They've finally done it," said the President after Samantha reported the message. "After all our efforts to keep peace." "Yes, sir," said Samantha. "They've made their choice. And we must make ours." The President looked tired. He had been in office only 8 months, but the growing crisis with the Council had aged him. "Admiral Wells, what are your recommendations?" Samantha took a deep breath. "Sir, we've known this day might come. For the past 10 years, Earth Defense has been preparing for this exact situation. I recommend we activate Protocol Whisper immediately." The President's eyes widened. "Are you certain? Once we begin down that path—" "With respect, Mr. President, we don't have time for half measures. The Council has been planning this for years. Their ships are already positioned. If we try to fight them directly, millions will die on the first day alone." One of the Security Council members, an older woman named Dr. Rita Foster, leaned forward. "Admiral, Protocol Whisper has never been tested at full scale. The risks are less than the certainty of defeat if we don't use it," Samantha finished. "The Council expects us to either surrender or fight. They're prepared for both. What they're not prepared for is silence." The President rubbed his eyes. "Explain it to everyone, please, Admiral. Not all of the Council members are familiar with the protocol," Samantha nodded. Protocol Whisper is a three-phase defense strategy. Phase 1. We go dark. All communications across Earth and the colonies shut down. All military ships power down. Weapons and engines. All defense platforms appear to deactivate. From the outside, it will look like we've simply disappeared. And the purpose? Asked another council member. Confusion, said Samantha. The council expects either surrender or resistance. When they get neither, it will force them to pause and reconsider. That pause buys us time for Phase 2. Which is? Prompted the president. While appearing inactive, we activate the Shadow Fleet and deploy the quantum displacement weapons. The room went silent. The Shadow Fleet was Earth's most closely guarded, secret. Ships built in hidden facilities throughout the solar system, using technology that even most high-ranking military officers didn't know existed. And Phase 3? Asked Dr. Foster quietly. Samantha's face showed no emotion. We end the war before it can truly begin. The president looked at each member of the Security Council, then back at Samantha. How soon can Protocol Whisper be initiated? Within 30 minutes of your order, sir. The command codes are ready. President Davis closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, his decision was made. Do it, Admiral. God help us all. Samantha saluted. Yes, sir. Back in the control room, Samantha stood before her officers. Their faces showed fear, determination, and confusion. Listen carefully, she said. By direct order of the President, Protocol Whisper is now active. She turned to Lieutenant Patterson. Send the coded message to all Earth Defense Forces, then prepare for communications blackout. Patterson's fingers flew over his console. Message sent, Admiral. Confirmation. Signals coming in from all commands. Samantha looked at the large digital clock on the wall. Blackout in 5 minutes. Final preparations, everyone. Around the room, officers made last calls to family members. Some prayed quietly. Others checked systems one final time. Samantha walked to the main window that overlooked the city below. Washington, D.C. sparkled in the morning sunlight, its people unaware of what was about to happen. Admiral, called Patterson, 1 minute to black out. Samantha turned back to face her team. Remember your training. Remember why we do this. The Council thinks they know humanity, but they've never seen what we're truly capable of. 30 seconds, announced Patterson. Samantha took her seat at the command station. When we go dark, stay calm, follow your assigned protocols, and remember, from this moment until the end, absolute silence is our greatest weapon. 10 seconds. The lights in the control room dimmed slightly as power was redirected to essential systems. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Across Earth and throughout the solar system, human communications went silent. Defense platforms powered down. Military ships drifted, appearing disabled. To the watching Galactic Council, it seemed as if humanity had simply vanished. The war had begun, and Earth's first move was no move at all. 3 weeks had passed since Earth went silent. On the Galactic Council flagship Eternal Dawn, Warlord Kraz paced the length of the command center. His 4 arms were clasped behind his back, and his yellow eyes glowed with frustration. Nothing. Again, he growled, looking at the latest report. An entire planet does not simply vanish. Intelligence Officer Mira Voss stood at attention nearby. As one of the few humans serving with the Council forces before the war declaration, she now found herself in an uncomfortable position. The other officers watched her with suspicion, as if she might suddenly attack them or disappear like her homeworld apparently had. Sir, the scouting party we sent to Mars Colony has also failed to report back, she said. That makes 7 teams that have gone missing. Kraz slammed one of his fists against a control panel. What game are they playing? We have over 30,000 ships surrounding their solar system. Their military was tiny compared to ours. They should have either fought or surrendered by now. Mira kept her face carefully blank. Perhaps they did surrender in their own way, sir. By powering down all systems, they may be signaling that they won't resist our occupation. Then where are their leaders? Kraz demanded. Where are their representatives? Why won't they communicate? No one had an answer. The greatest armada ever assembled in galactic history hovered at the edges of Earth's solar system, and their enemy was doing nothing. When the Council had declared war, they had expected Earth to respond in one of two ways. Either humans would fight back with their small fleet, which would be quickly destroyed, or they would surrender and accept Council rule. The Council's war planners had prepared for both scenarios in great detail. What no one had prepared for was complete silence. At first, the Council forces had been cautious, expecting a trap, but as days turned into weeks with no sign of human activity, confusion had turned to frustration. "We've sent probes to every corner of their system," said Admiral Zoth, a tall, thin alien with pale blue skin. "The readings show that humans are still present on Earth and their colonies, but all military installations appear powered down. Civilian communications are offline. It's as if they've collectively decided to ignore us." "Impossible," said Kraz. "No species would respond this way. There must be something we're missing." Mira cleared her throat. "If I may, sir, I worked with humans for 6 years before this conflict. They can be unpredictable." All eyes in the command center turned to her. "Explain," ordered Kraz. "In their history, humans have sometimes used unusual strategies when facing a stronger enemy. There's a famous human story about a battle where one side remained completely still and silent until their enemy came close enough for an ambush." Admiral Xoth made a dismissive gesture. "Our sensors would detect any ambush. Their ships are all powered down, we can verify that. Their defense platforms are offline." "With respect, Admiral," said Mira, "humans have surprised us before. When they first developed faster-than-light travel, our scientists said it was impossible, because they approached the problem differently than any Council race had." Kraz was quiet for a moment, considering. "What do you suggest?" "Send a small force to Earth itself," said Mira. "Not just scouts, but a proper diplomatic team with military escort. Land directly at their defense headquarters. Force them to acknowledge us." 2 days later, a Council cruiser carrying 20 diplomats and 50 soldiers entered Earth's atmosphere. They landed on the grounds of Earth Defense Command in Washington, D.C., the same building where Admiral Wells had received the war declaration weeks earlier. The Council members emerged from their ship in full environmental suits, weapons ready. They expected resistance, alarms, some kind of response. Instead, they found an empty building. "This doesn't make sense," said Commander Jax, leading the military team. "Their tracking systems show thousands of humans still in this city. Where are they?" The team moved through the Defense Command building, finding offices and control rooms that looked as if people had simply stood up and walked away. Screens were dark. Chairs were pushed neatly under desks. In the main control room, they found a coffee mug still half full but cold. "It's like they knew we were coming and left minutes before we arrived," said a diplomat. "Impossible," replied Commander Jax. "We decided on this mission 2 days ago, and they've been silent for weeks. They couldn't have known." But doubt had crept into his voice. Outside the building, the streets of Washington, D.C. were equally deserted. Cars sat parked along the roads. Shops appeared closed. The great monuments stood unguarded. "Spread out," ordered Commander Jax. "Find someone. Anyone." The teams moved through the city, growing more uneasy with each empty street. Finally, one group reported back. "Commander, we found civilians in a park area. They appear to be having a picnic." When Commander Jax reached the location, he found an ordinary scene that somehow seemed more disturbing than any resistance would have been. About 50 humans sat on blankets on the grass, eating food, talking quietly among themselves. Children played nearby. As the armed Council soldiers approached, the humans looked up. They showed no fear, no surprise, no anger. They simply watched. A woman stood up and walked toward Commander Jax. She wore simple civilian clothes, pants and a light jacket. She carried no weapons. Her face was calm. "Hello," she said. "Would you like something to eat?" Commander Jax was so startled he took a step back. We are representatives of the Galactic Council. We demand to speak with your leaders." The woman smiled slightly. "I'm Kate. I teach history at the local university." I don't care what you do. Where are your military leaders?" Where is Admiral Wells? Kate shrugged. I couldn't say. Is there something specific you need? All around the park, the other humans continued their picnic as if armed aliens weren't standing in their midst. Your planet is under siege, Commander Jack said, his voice rising. The Council has declared war. Why are you acting like nothing is happening? Kate's smile faded. We heard the declaration. We chose not to participate in your war. You can't choose not to participate. That's not how war works, isn't it? Kate asked. War requires two sides to fight. We decided not to fight, or talk, or negotiate. We decided to wait. Wait for what? Demanded Commander Jax. Kate looked up at the sky for a moment, then back at the alien commander. For you to realize that your weapons are useless against people who refuse to be threatened by them. Back on the flagship, Warlord Kraz received the team's confused report. No military presence, no government officials, just ordinary humans going about their lives, acting as if the Council forces didn't matter. It's a trick, he insisted. They're hiding something. That night, the scout ship that had visited Earth disappeared without a trace on its return journey to the flagship, just like all the others before it. And Earth remained silent. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Samantha Wells walked through a large underground room filled with people working at computers. No one spoke. They communicated through text messages, hand signals, and small screens built into their glasses. Protocol Whisper had been in effect for 6 weeks now, and silence had become a way of life. Samantha stopped at a workstation where Lieutenant Gary Patterson sat looking at a screen filled with numbers. He noticed her and made a small hand motion, asking if she wanted an update. She nodded. Gary's fingers flew across his keyboard and text appeared on Samantha's glasses. Council fleet is getting desperate. They've lost 23 ships now. No explanation. Their commanders are fighting among themselves. Samantha allowed herself a small smile. She typed a response on the tiny keyboard on her wrist. And Project Shadow? Ahead of schedule. First units activated yesterday. No detection from Council sensors. This was the news Samantha had been waiting for. 6 weeks of silence. 6 weeks of appearing helpless and defeated. And now, finally, Phase 2 of Protocol Whisper could begin. She gestured for Gary to follow her. They walked through several long tunnels, passing other silent workers. The underground base stretched for miles beneath the mountains. Similar bases existed under the oceans, in the Arctic ice, and deep in the forests around the world, each one completely hidden from Council scans. They entered a small room with a round table. 4 other people were already seated there. They were the top commanders of Earth's hidden defense system. None of them had seen the sky in 6 weeks. Samantha sat down and touched a control on the table. A hologram appeared above them, showing Earth and the surrounding space. Red dots represented Council ships. There were thousands of them. Then, with another touch, blue dots appeared. They were scattered throughout the solar system, hiding in asteroid belts, inside gas giant planets, and in deep space. The blue dots were smaller than the red ones, but there were many more of them. Samantha typed a message that appeared on everyone's glasses. The Shadow Fleet is ready. Phase 2 begins tonight. Across the solar system, human ships had been hiding and waiting. They weren't like normal spaceships. They had no metal hulls that would show up on radar. Instead, they were made of materials that absorbed energy rather than reflecting it. They didn't use normal engines that created heat and light. Instead, they moved by pushing against the fabric of space itself, leaving no trace. For years, while openly building regular ships that the Council could see and count, Earth had secretly been creating the Shadow Fleet. Thousands of small, nearly invisible craft, each armed with weapons the Council had never seen before. On Earth, in the city of St. Louis, a man named Peter Miller walked to a small park near his home. Like all humans, he hadn't used a phone, computer, or any electronic device that might be detected since the silence began. Life had become surprisingly peaceful. Tonight was his turn for skywatch duty. All across Earth, ordinary people took turns watching the sky and reporting any Council activity. They used old-fashioned paper and pencil to record what they saw, and runners carried the reports to local collection points. Peter sat on a park bench and looked up. The night was clear, and he could see stars. Among them were dozens of bright points that didn't belong, council ships watching Earth from orbit. As he watched, one of the bright points suddenly vanished. Then another, and another. Peter blinked, wondering if his eyes were playing tricks on him. But it continued. One by one, the council ships were disappearing without any flash or explosion. They were simply there one moment and gone the next. Began writing quickly on his notepad. On the council flagship, Warlord Kraz was in a panic. Reports were coming in from all directions. 6 more cruisers missing in Sector 7. Entire patrol fleet around Mars has vanished. We've lost contact with the observation stations on Pluto's moon. Kraz turned to Intelligence Officer Mira Voss. What is happening? Where are these attacks coming from? Our sensors show nothing. Mira's face was pale. I don't know, sir. There are no energy signatures, no weapons fire, no explosions. The ships just stop existing. That's impossible, roared Kraz. Ships don't just disappear. Admiral Zoth rushed into the command center. Warlord, we've detected something strange. Very faint energy readings unlike anything in our database. They appear briefly near our ships before they vanish. Show me, demanded Kraz. A hologram appeared, showing ghostly shapes moving among the council fleet. They were barely visible, like shadows in space. Magnify, ordered Kraz. The image zoomed in on one of the shapes. It looked like a ship, but like no ship any of them had seen before. It seemed to bend the light around it, appearing and disappearing as they watched. Those are human ships, said Mira softly. They've been hiding. Impossible, said Admiral Zoth. Our scans would have detected them weeks ago. Unless, said Mira, they've developed technology specifically designed to hide from our sensors. Before anyone could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. Multiple contacts, shouted an officer. They're all around us. On the main screen, hundreds of the shadow ships appeared surrounding the flagship. They weren't firing weapons, they were just watching. Battle stations, ordered Kraz. All weapons. Fire at will. The flagship's massive guns roared to life, firing energy beams into space. But the shadow ships simply moved aside, the beams, passing harmlessly through empty space. Then a single message appeared on all the council ships' communication screens. It was in plain text with no sender information. This is Earth Defense Command. For 6 weeks you have threatened our world. For 6 weeks we have observed your fleet, your tactics, your technology. We now know everything about you. We could destroy your entire fleet in minutes. Instead, we offer you a choice. Leave our solar system immediately or join the other ships we have removed. Removed? Repeated Kraz. What does that mean? Where are our missing ships? Mira looked at the message again. Sir, I don't think they've been destroying the ships. I think they've been relocating them. To where? As if in answer, another message appeared. Your missing ships and crews are safe in a location you cannot reach with your current technology. They will be returned once you have left our space. Kraz slammed his fist down. This is blackmail. We are the Galactic Council. We do not take orders from... His words were cut short as a strange energy field surrounded the bridge. Everyone froze, unable to move. Through the viewports they could see one of the shadow ships hovering directly in front of them, so close they could make out details of its unusual hull. A human figure appeared on their main screen. It was Admiral Samantha Wells, looking exactly as she had the day the Council declared war. Warlord Kraz, she said. Her voice was the first human voice any of them had heard in 6 weeks. Your remaining fleet has 3 hours to begin leaving our solar system. Any ship still present after that time will be relocated. The choice is yours. The screen went dark. The energy field disappeared, leaving the bridge crew able to move again. Kraz looked around at his officers. For the first time in his long, military career, he had no idea what to do. Sir, said Admiral Zoth quietly, We've lost almost half our fleet already, and we still don't understand how they're doing this. Kraz stared out at the shadow ships surrounding his flagship. They hovered silently, waiting. "Send the withdrawal order," he said finally. "All ships to fall back beyond Pluto's orbit." As the Council fleet began to move away from Earth, the shadow ships followed at a distance watching. Silence had proven to be humanity's most powerful weapon. The Council fleet retreated beyond Pluto's orbit as ordered. Over 5,000 ships hung in the darkness of deep space, licking their wounds. Warlord Kraz had never experienced such defeat, especially not one where barely a shot was fired. "How many ships have we lost total?" he asked, his voice low and dangerous. Admiral Zoth checked the numbers on his screen. 14,237, sir. Almost half our fleet. Gone. The command center of the flagship was quiet. No one wanted to speak. No one wanted to take blame for this disaster. Intelligence Officer Mira Voss stood near the back of the room. As the only human on the bridge, she felt the stares of the other officers. They didn't say it, but she knew what they were thinking. "Traitor, spy, Officer Voss," called Kraz. "Come forward." Mira walked to the center of the room, her back straight, her face calm. "Yes, sir? You know your people better than anyone here. What are they planning next? Will they attack us here?" Mira chose her words carefully. "I don't believe they will attack if we respect their boundary." Their message was clear: leave their solar system. They didn't demand our surrender or destruction. "That doesn't answer my question," growled Kraz. "What's their next move?" "I don't know, sir. I've been serving with the Council for 7 years. I'm as surprised by these shadow ships as you are." Kraz studied her face, looking for any sign of deception. "You expect me to believe that Earth developed this technology in secret, without any of their own people knowing?" "Not all of their people, sir, just those of us who left." Mira paused. "Earth has always been creative when threatened. Our history is full of examples where smaller human forces defeated larger ones through unexpected tactics." Before Kraz could respond, an alert sounded. A junior officer called out, "Sir, we're detecting movement from Earth's direction." The main screen showed a group of shadow ships heading toward the Council fleet. Unlike before, they weren't trying to hide. They wanted to be seen. "How many?" demanded Kraz. "Just 5 ships, sir. They're moving slowly, not in attack formation." Kraz frowned. "A diplomatic mission or a trap?" "Sir," said Mira, "if they wanted to attack, they would have continued when they had the advantage. I believe they want to talk." "Now they want to talk," muttered Kraz. "After 6 weeks of silence and stealing half our fleet." Nevertheless, he gave orders not to fire on the approaching ships. The 5 shadow vessels stopped at a respectful distance from the Council flagship. A communication request came through. Kraz nodded to accept it. The screen lit up with the face of Admiral Samantha Wells. She looked tired but determined. "Warlord, Kraz," she said. "Thank you for not firing on our ships. We come with a proposal from Earth's leadership." Kraz's 4 arms crossed over his chest. "You've made your point, Admiral. Your shadow technology is impressive, but the Council still has over 15,000 ships. We could still destroy your planet." Samantha's expression didn't change. "You could try, but you would lose the rest of your fleet, and you know it. That's not why I'm here." "Then why?" "To return your missing ships and crews." A ripple of surprise went through the command center. Kraz leaned forward. "You would just give them back?" "Yes. All of them, with all personnel, unharmed. We aren't interested in prisoners or stolen technology." "In exchange for what?" asked Kraz suspiciously. "Peace," said Samantha simply. "And recognition." "Recognition of what?" "Of Earth as an independent system, outside Council control. We will trade with Council worlds. We will share some of our technology. We will even consider joining the Council. Eventually, but as equals, not as subjects." Kraz was silent for a long moment. "The Council has existed for 2,000 years. In all that time, no race has ever demanded such terms. No race has ever been able to enforce such terms. countered Samantha. Until now. And if we refuse? Samantha's eyes hardened. Then your ships and crews will remain where they are, safe but unreachable. And we will extend the boundary you are not to cross. Right now, it's the edge of our solar system. It could become much larger. The threat was clear. Earth could take more ships, push the Council farther back, create a growing zone of exclusion. I must discuss this with the full Council, said Kraz. Of course, nodded Samantha. You have 24 hours. In the meantime, as a show of good faith, she pressed something off-screen. Outside, in the darkness of space, a bright flash appeared. When it cleared, 100 Council ships had materialized from nowhere. The crews are all safe, said Samantha. Consider it a gesture of our sincerity. After the communication ended, the command center erupted into confused talk. Officers rushed to contact the returned ships to verify they were real, and their crews unharmed. It's them, confirmed Admiral Zoth. They're all intact. Crews report being held in some kind of stasis. They were aware but unable to move or communicate. They felt no pain or discomfort. Kraz turned to Mira. Is this possible? This technology? Mira looked as surprised as everyone else. I've never heard of anything like it. The ability to move entire ships across space without conventional travel. It violates what we know about physics. Over the next few hours, reports came in from the returned ships. They all told the same story. One moment they had been in normal space, the next they were surrounded by a strange energy field. Then they found themselves in a vast empty space, with the other taken ships, floating in what seemed like an endless void with no stars, no planets, nothing but darkness and each other. They couldn't move or communicate. Time seemed to pass differently there. What felt like hours to the crews had been weeks in real space. The most disturbing part was what the ship sensors had recorded. The void they had been kept in showed no connection to normal space. It wasn't somewhere else in the galaxy. It wasn't anywhere in the known universe at all. Earth had somehow found a way to move objects into another dimension entirely. Kraz called an emergency meeting of the full Galactic Council. Representatives from 27 races joined via hologram, their faces showing various degrees of shock, anger, and fear. This is unacceptable, said the Varaxian counselor. No race should have this power. And yet Earth does have it, replied Kraz. The question is, what do we do now? We must get back our ships and crews, said another counselor. After that, we can consider our options. Their terms are simple, said Kraz. Peace and independence. The council chamber fell silent as the IEE members considered this. Finally, the oldest member, a Zenthari who had served for over a century, spoke. In all our history, we have never encountered a race that developed so differently from us. Their silence was not cowardice as we thought. It was strategy. Their shadow ships are not just advanced technology. They represent a completely different path of scientific development. The Zenthari's wrinkled face looked troubled. Perhaps we were wrong to declare war so quickly. Perhaps we should have tried to understand them better first. Across the void of space, Earth waited for the Council's answer. The shadow ships hovered silently, watching. And for the first time in its long history, the Galactic Council prepared to admit it had made a mistake. 1 month later, Earth's silence had ended. People spoke freely again, used their phones, and went about their normal lives. The Shadow Fleet still patrolled the edges of the solar system, but most of the ships had returned to their hidden bases. In Washington, D.C., Admiral Samantha Wells stood beside President Howard Davis in the East Room of the White House. They were waiting for the arrival of the Galactic Council representatives. After weeks of careful talks, the Council had agreed to Earth's terms. Nervous? Asked the President quietly. Samantha smiled slightly. After everything we've been through? No, sir. Just ready for this to be over. The door opened, and a group of aliens entered. Warlord Kraz led them, followed by representatives from 6 other council races. Intelligence officer Mira Voss walked with them, now serving as an official translator rather than a council officer. President Davis, said Kraz, bowing his head slightly. "Admiral Wells, thank you for receiving us." "Welcome to Earth," said the president. Officially this time. They all sat at a long table. Human and alien diplomats arranged papers and tablets. There was an awkward moment of silence before Kraz spoke again. "Before we sign the treaty, the Council has questions about your technology." Samantha and the president exchanged glances. They had expected this. "We will answer what we can," said Samantha. "Some things must remain secret, for now." Kraz nodded. "Understandable. What we primarily wish to know is, how long have you had this shadow technology? These dimensional pockets where you sent our ships?" Samantha considered her answer carefully. "We began theoretical research 20 years ago, after our first contact with alien life. We realized then that we were far behind the Council races in conventional space technology. We knew we could never catch up by following the same path you had taken." "So you found a different path?" said a Xanthari representative, his old eyes watching Samantha closely. "Yes. Instead of trying to build bigger ships with more powerful weapons, we looked for gaps, blind spots in conventional science. We found several. And you kept this hidden from everyone, even your own people working with the Council?" Mira Voss shifted uncomfortably at this question. She had wondered the same thing. Samantha looked at Mira. "We had to. The Council monitors all communications from Earth. We knew that if we openly developed these technologies, you would take steps to counter them before they were ready. Your silence was part of your strategy from the beginning," said Kraz, realization dawning on his face. "In a way," admitted Samantha. "We hoped we'd never need to use protocol whisper, but we planned for it just in case. The moment you declared war, we activated the plan we had been preparing for years." One of the alien representatives, a tall, blue-skinned being, leaned forward. "But how did your people coordinate without communications? How did you all know what to do?" The president smiled for the first time. "That part was more traditional. Every human on Earth and in the colonies received training over the past 5 years. Simple instructions. If the signal comes, go silent. Wait for the second signal, then follow your assigned duties." "Your entire species knew about this plan?" asked Kraz, clearly shocked. "Not the details," said Samantha. "Most people only knew their own small part, but everyone knew that silence would protect us if the Council ever turned against us." Kraz sat back in his chair looking troubled. "All this planning, these secret technologies. Did you always expect war between us?" "We hoped for peace," said the president firmly. "We prepared for war. It's what humans have always done throughout our history. The treaty signing itself was simple. Earth would be recognized as an independent system, not subject to Council control or laws. All Council ships and crews would be returned unharmed. Earth would share some of its new technologies, but not the dimensional pocket technology or the shadow ship designs." After the treaty was signed, Samantha found Mira Voss standing alone by a window, looking out at the Washington Monument. "Officer Voss," said Samantha, "I wanted to thank you." Mira turned, surprised. "For what?" "I was working for the Council. And yet when it mattered, you helped them understand us better. You prevented things from getting worse." Mira looked down. "I felt caught between two worlds. I left Earth 7 years ago because I believed in the Council's mission. I thought we needed their guidance. Now I don't know what to believe." "Believe that both can exist," said Samantha. "The Council has built something amazing, thousands of worlds working together. We can be part of that without losing who we are." "And who are we exactly?" asked Mira. "I'm not sure I know anymore." Samantha smiled. "We're the species that responds to war with silence, and then changes the rules of the game." Later that evening, Warlord Kraz sat in the garden of the human embassy. The stars were coming out overhead. Among them were the lights of Council ships. Now, peaceful visitors rather than an invasion force. President Davis joined him, carrying 2 glasses of water. "Your people are adjusting well to Earth gravity," observed the president, handing Kraz a glass. Better than we expected, admitted Kraz. Though the air is thinner than we're used to. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Will the council truly accept this new relationship? Asked the president finally. Some of your members seemed unhappy with the terms. Kraz made a gesture that might have been a shrug. They will adjust. The return of our ships and crews will help. And frankly, many are curious about your technology. The idea of paths not taken. It's fascinating to scientists across the council worlds. We're happy to collaborate on research now, said the president. That's all we wanted from the beginning, to be treated as equals. Kraz looked up at the stars again. You know, when we first discovered your species, our scientists studied your history. They were shocked by how much of it involved war. They concluded that humans were dangerous, unpredictable. That's partly why the council voted as it did. And now? Now I think we misunderstood. Your history of conflict didn't make you warlike. It made you incredibly good at finding unexpected solutions, at thinking in ways we never considered. The president smiled. That's a generous way of looking at it. It's a necessary way, said Kraz. Because the truth is, the council needs that kind of thinking. In 2,000 years, we've become comfortable, set in our ways. As they talked, Admiral Wells was across the city, standing on the roof of Earth Defense Command. The building was fully operational again, screens glowing, officers talking freely. No more silence. She looked up at the same stars Kraz and the president were seeing. Somewhere out there, the Shadow Fleet was still watching, still ready. Earth would maintain its defenses. But perhaps they wouldn't be needed again. Her handheld device buzzed with a message from her science team. Dimensional research progressing faster with council input. New breakthrough possible within months. Samantha smiled. From silence had come understanding. From preparation had come peace. Earth had taken its place among the stars not through conquest or surrender, but by changing the conversation entirely, and the galaxy would never be the same.